afternoon session of the Portland City Council. Keelan, please call the roll.
Good afternoon. Gonzalez.
Here.
Maps.
Here.
Rubio.
Here.
Ryan. Wheeler.
Here. Now we'll hear from legal counsel on the rules of order and decorum. Good
Thank you,
afternoon.
Mayor. Welcome to Portland City Council. To testify before council in person or virtually, you must sign up in advance on the council agenda at www.portland.gov/council/agenda. Information on engaging with council can be found on the council clerk's webpage. Individuals may testify for 2 minutes today unless the presiding officer states otherwise. Your microphone will be muted when your time is over. The presiding officer preserves order. Disruptive conduct such as shouting, refusing to conclude your testimony when your time is up, or interrupting others' testimony or council deliberations will not be allowed. If you cause a disruption, a warning will be given. Further disruption will result in ejection from the meeting. Anyone who fails to leave once ejected is subject to arrest for trespass. Additionally, council may take a short recess and reconvene virtually. Your testimony today should address the matter being considered. When testifying, please state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. If you are a lobbyist, identify the organization you represent. Virtual testifiers should unmute themselves when the council clerk calls their name. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. We have one item on this afternoon's agenda, item number 756. This is a resolution.
Adopt the 2024 Housing Production Strategy to identify actions to address housing needs.
Well, good afternoon, colleagues. Today we're holding a hearing to adopt the Housing Production Strategy Resolution. This is a recent requirement by the state that we must adopt this year. This project is also part of the city's continuing work to address the city's housing crisis. We have quite a few people signed up for this afternoon, I believe well over 20. So we will be restricting public testimony to 2 minutes. So please assess your talking points, your comments for their ability to stay within that 2-minute time frame. The housing production strategy will guide the city's action over the next several years as the city facilitates housing production to meet the diverse housing needs of city's residents. This work represents a collaboration across many city boroughs to address all aspects of housing as well as housing production, from affordable housing to permitting to the financial incentives that are needed to support the development of housing that I think we can all agree Portlanders desperately need. The housing production strategy was produced under the leadership of Commissioner Rubio, so I'd like to invite her at this moment to give some opening remarks. Commissioner Rubio, thanks for your leadership.
Thank you, Mayor. As we learned from staff last summer and fall, and that we'll hear about today again, we need more housing in Portland, a lot more housing. Everyone deserves to live in a secure and healthy home, but the reality is that not all Portlanders can access safe and affordable housing. Economic, social, and physical barriers often limit residents from finding homes that meet their needs. And the rising cost of living has made it even harder for people, straining the budgets of many Portlanders, fueling gentrification and displacement, and also causing people living on the edge to lose their homes. As we'll hear today, this housing production strategy emphasizes equitable outcomes for communities facing bigger challenges to meeting their needs, especially low-income households, working families, communities of color, elders, people with disabilities, and people experiencing houselessness. This proposed strategy builds on several key actions since Council first declared a housing emergency in 2015, and more than a dozen actions the city has taken since I was assigned the Community and Economic Development Service area last year. I also want to start by acknowledging my housing commissioner predecessors at the table with us today, Mayor Wheeler and also Commissioner Ryan, who has laid the important groundwork for all the work we will talk about today. We heard that the inclusionary housing program was out of balance in keeping some projects from moving forward, so we fixed it. So thank you, Commissioner Ryan, for kicking this work off. We heard that a handful of zoning requirements were big barriers to construction, so we did our homework and then addressed them. We heard that it had been years since there had been any cleanup on the zoning code, and we got that done and made sure that work will happen again next year. So thanks again for Commissioner Ryan on your partnership there. We've heard for decades about challenges with our permitting process, so we did what no one before us would, and we are getting our house in order. And thanks again to the Permit Task Force team and Commissioner Maps and Commissioner Ryan for your contributions. We know that the homeownership is a critical path towards stabilization and wealth creation, so we expanded our incentive programs and gave out $5 million in grants to buy land and build affordable homes. And in fact, just this morning on our council consent agenda, we checked off another item. We advocated to change state laws so that we can improve our homeownership incentives faster, eliminating red tape and shaving off several weeks for nonprofit and other builders. We know that choosing between housing our residents and protecting the environment is a false choice. So we found a way to balance these priorities in the floodplain in our central city. We passed legislation that will require us at the city to better understand and acknowledge how our decisions could raise the cost of building homes. We adopted legislation to preserve existing affordable housing, to encourage the conversion of office buildings to housing, and we froze SDCs for a year and reduced fees for certain permitting meetings. And we heard from the folks in the Central City and East Portland about the need for a new generation of public funding for housing and economic development. So we got the ball rolling to explore new TIF districts there. So it has been a very eventful last year and a half, and with the seamless handoff from my predecessor, I took up the next challenge assigned and acted with urgency because our housing emergency requires it. But we are not done yet. There are 35 items in the housing production strategy. These are 35 ways that we can adjust the levers we control and use the tools in our toolkit. Some of them are big, complex lifts that will take years, but others are smaller and more discreet. But here's what they all have in common. They are not pie-in-the-sky ideas that will sit on a shelf for years and years until there's political will to do them. This is a very real, very live list of active work that we fully intend to do. And I'm grateful to be in a state where we will be held accountable to that promise. 2 of the items we've already completed earlier this year. A whopping 15 are currently underway, and 4 more are kicking off this fall. So that means that when our new mayor and city council start their jobs on January 1st, nearly half of the items in this document will be in progress or already completed. This list is a huge step for Portland and for Oregon. It represents the core of the work that we in city government will be doing to ensure that we have the amount and types of housing that our residents will need in the next 20 years. It will provide clarity for city leadership and staff in the coming years on how to develop their work plans and prioritize their time and resources. It offers the transparency that the public needs to keep us on track. And before I wrap up and pass it to the team, who I know are very eager to get started on their presentation, I also want to be clear that this document represents a body of work that is living and will continue to expand as it needs to shift as new ideas come to the table. As an example of one of those ideas, something that is not specifically listed in this production strategy, but is absolutely aligned with it, is from our friends in Los Angeles, where their mayor issued an executive directive to reduce the amount of time it takes for affordable housing projects to move through permitting. Several months back, some of you have asked about that we look into that. So as a result, we met with the city of LA. We learned some important things. First, we learned that the biggest barrier for them doesn't apply here. And then we also learned that some of the things we've already done as separate actions, that were already on their list, we've already done, like offering flexibility from design review. But the main point here is that there are some clearly beneficial things on LA's list that we can do and that we absolutely should. So my plan, what I'd like to see and for us to get moving on now, is affordable housing and some types of middle income housing to be approved within a 90 city desk days. This is a conversation I've already started with the relevant bureaus and also with our partner in this, Oregon Smart Growth. We are also fortunate to have Director Hisrich, who hails from LA and knows these reforms well. We'll be working with them over the coming months to pull together key stakeholders to flesh out a real proposal, so stay tuned. So back to the program. For now, I'll just say how incredibly proud I am to have been able to help shape this work, Portland's first ever housing production strategy. We have an amazing team of staff that are very dedicated to this work and that we'll get to hear from, and lots of folks sign up for testimony. So let's get started, and I'll turn it over to DCA Donnie Oliveira.
That's fine. Thank you, Commissioner Rubio. My name is Donnie Oliveira, and I'm the Deputy City Administrator for the Community Economic Development Service Area. I am very pleased to introduce this resolution for the Housing Production Strategy and continue the discussion on one of the most important issues facing Portland, housing production and affordability. One of the most basic ways to address housing affordability is to produce more housing. And to be clear, I mean more housing of all types and sizes, because cities need housing types that meet different needs at different points in our lives. Over the last 3 legislative sessions, the Oregon State Legislature has passed new statutes and rules that increase the responsibility and accountability of cities to do more when it comes to planning for future housing and supporting housing production. Our first milestone as a city in this process was the housing needs analysis that this council adopted in December of 2023. And along with the Housing Bureau's State of Housing Report and stakeholder input, we had substantial baseline information about our housing condition, future needs, and where we have the opportunity to do more to facilitate housing production. So this housing production strategy for your consideration is the next step in our city's efforts to address housing needs and meet state goals. It will serve as an action plan identifying the multifaceted strategies the city is committed to pursuing to further its ongoing work to both remove barriers and to support the production of high-quality, affordable housing for all Portlanders. And just as we worked across bureaus and agencies to develop the housing production strategy, we will continue to collaborate to implement policies and programs that will help Portland meet its new need for quality, affordable homes for a growing and socially economically diverse population, and ensure equitable housing access in a time of increased urgency. Now I'd like to turn it over to staff from the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability to lead us through the presentation. And when there's time for questions, we have Directors Hesrick and Director Ingstrom also present to answer. So Patricia, Tom, Ariel, please take it away. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, Mayor Wheeler, Commissioners. I'm Tom Armstrong. I'm a supervising planner with the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. And with me here today is Ariel Kane, who's been the lead economic planner in helping put together this housing production strategy. Next slide. So today, just in brief, we're going to give you a little bit more background information to recap what was in the housing needs analysis that was adopted last December, and talk a little bit about the current market realities, which is based on some studies that we did last summer as part of the inclusionary housing recalibration study. And then we'll get into the housing production strategy itself with a little bit on the engagement process that resulted in these strategies, and then diving into the strategies and action themselves, and wrap up with a brief comment on where we go from here. So as was stated earlier, we're recommending that council adopt the resolution to adopt the housing production strategy. We have a legislative record. The MAP app for testimony has been open since early August, and there's probably over 50 pieces of written testimony that have come in since then. And then we also have our typical e-files folder, which has previous drafts and the legislative record for this project. As was said, the housing production strategy is something new for Portland and for all cities in the region and all cities with more than 10,000 people in the state. And it is a way that the state is increasing the city's responsibility and increasing the state accountability in terms of not just identifying what the future housing needs are and do we have enough zoning capacity, but what specific actions are we going to be taking to support that production, and then over time to measure the production, report on our accomplishments, and to make adjustments over this 6-year period. And as I think was stated earlier, this is a state requirement. We need to adopt this production strategy by the end of the year, and then we'll submit it to the state for their review with compliance with the state laws and rules. So a little bit background. I think Commissioner Rubio's opening remarks touched on some of this, that we as a city have taken a lot of recent actions to address housing issues in Portland. I think really with a focus dating back to 2015 with the first emergency declaration. But since then, we've taken a number of actions, both in terms of zoning and code changes, as well as funding to support all types of housing production. And I think what you'll see through this production strategy is a theme of continuous improvement, that we don't sit and rest on our laurels, but that we continue to work the issues, and as issues emerge, continue to address that. And again, as even while we were producing this strategy, we were continuing to work on some of the issues. You've seen stuff before you, like earlier this month when you passed the Land Division Code update. You will see some more stuff coming as soon as October with the tax increment finance districts that Prosper Portland has been working on, and even beginning to see some of the middle income housing projects that they are able to bring forward with their new financial incentives. I'm going to turn things over to Ariel Kane, who's going to give a little bit of a recap on what our housing needs are.
Great, thank you. Ariel Kane, for the record, Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. Just to briefly remind you, the 2045 Housing Needs Analysis that was adopted by Council last year serves as the basis for the goals of the housing production strategy and guides what we're planning for over the next several years. So this was based on the Metro Regional Forecast, and we estimated we need to build around or up to 120,000 units by 2045. We anticipate growth at all income levels, similar to today's makeup, to maintain income diversity, but also to account for underproduction in housing our currently houseless residents. We estimate that about 53% of all of our new units need to be affordable at that 80% area median income or below. In addition to the high need for affordable units, we're also required to plan for different kinds of housing that meet the diverse needs of Portlanders, including households experiencing houselessness, households with members with disabilities, older adults, and families. So what can Portlanders afford? This is to just ground truth what Portlanders earning at different incomes are able to afford on a monthly basis. For context, in 2023, the average rent for a one-bedroom in Portland was around $1,500. This would be a challenge for a household of a 3-person household in Portland earning $60,000 a year, especially when we consider affordability to mean that they're paying no more than 30% of their income on their total housing costs. A minimum wage worker household of 3 can afford a housing cost of around $760 a month maximum, putting the average one-bedroom out of reach for those households. This table is just one other way to look at the forecasted demand for 2045 by both annual production and affordability level. If we're successful in producing these units, that would be about 5,000 new units on average being created or permitted annually from now till 2045. When we look at meeting the highest level of need or low-income households, that 0 to 60% AMI, this usually requires public subsidy. Right now, the average Portland Housing Bureau subsidy for these units is $140,000 per unit. At that rate, to meet even just a quarter of that need would require a $70 million investment annually. For reference, between the two bond sources, we estimate that we've averaged about $60 million a year for the last 4 years. The housing needs analysis looked not only at what's possible to build, but whether or not we have enough zoned capacity to accommodate that growth. We expect all district areas to have surplus capacity. This gives us an opportunity to really focus on the production of our most needed housing types, locations, and different affordability levels. As you can see on this graph, the highest demand is in Central City and in Southeast Portland, which is also where we have the most capacity to grow. Citywide, we estimate we have about twice the capacity we need to accommodate the full forecast. Our team also supplemented the state-required analyses with a fair housing assessment because we're concerned about strategic, equitable development and want to better understand where we've been growing, where we might grow, and how those growth pressures may impact different areas and where there's still opportunity to increase access and choice. This analysis and the other that I'll talk about a little bit are racially concentrated areas of affluence and poverty, a new analysis based on modeling in California and from HUD. The racially concentrated areas of affluence are areas that have higher concentration of white affluent households compared to the region, and racially concentrated areas of poverty are areas that have higher concentration of lower income BIPOC households compared to the region. Demand and capacity in these areas of poverty are roughly proportional to the existing household and have higher shares of affordable housing, whereas the racially concentrated areas of affluence have limited affordable housing, and limited development occurring over the last 20 years. We estimate that they have limited zoned capacity and also limited forecasted growth based on that capacity. That shows us that there's an opportunity to increase housing capacity in these areas, both as a means to reduce pressure on vulnerable areas, and prioritizing these efforts is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The last analyses I'll talk about is just the Portland Housing Bureau's opportunity map. They identify levels of opportunity across Portland with high opportunity areas that score a 4 or 5, offering a mix of desirable services and amenities that promote healthy and active living. It also guides their framework for investment and funding. This analysis shows that we have more development opportunity and demand in these areas, and that Portland Housing Bureau has already been very successful in investing in affordable housing in these areas. With 60% of our future housing demand expected in high opportunity areas, there's continued capacity to accommodate most of this demand. Housing production strategy actions that you'll hear more about are particularly geared towards supporting development in these high opportunity areas. And then I believe I'll pass to Tom and Lisa to talk a bit more about what it takes to build housing in our current market.
Yeah, I believe we have Lisa Abwaf from Prosper Portland to talk a little bit about the market realities and the challenges of developing housing.
Thanks, Tom, and apologies for joining remotely. Our board meeting is also underway, tied to TIF district approval, so I'm popping in for a moment and happy to join commissioners today. My name is Lisa Abwaf. I am the Director of Development Investment at Prosper Portland and use she, her pronouns. Clearly, what we wanted to share here is that ultimately, very often, one of the hurdles to delivering on middle income housing or market rate housing is that there is a feasibility gap, either due to current market conditions, i.e. the lease rates can't pay off kind of the cost for delivering on new development, or there may be public goals that we want to accomplish within that feasibility gap, whether that's around how projects get delivered through construction equity, et cetera. But the really key one is when our market rate developers do deliver on new market rate units, if the market dynamics are such that their hard costs, their soft costs, i.e. their financing costs, their permitting cost, et cetera, the cost to acquire land isn't outweighed or balanced by the level of lease rates that they can charge, and therefore the net operating income that they seek. Very often there is a feasibility gap, and that feasibility gap then holds up the production cycle for market rate housing. Next slide, Tom. So again, this is, I think, some of the key inputs when we talked about it as a city team, is really digging into understanding what actions we could take as a city to influence either the market dynamics and or some of the role that the city plays in delivery of new market rate housing production. On the market action side, understanding that hard costs are often fixed and set at a national, if not a global stage, understanding what's happening with those hard costs, what's happening with financing costs, whether that's debt or equity, and just the availability of that financing in the market, and then understanding what's happening with lease rates in our market and in fact in submarkets, different submarkets across our city experience different ability to absorb lease rates. And then on the city side, we dug into looking at financial tools and regulatory tools. So we took a look at how could we provide incentives, whether that's through direct financing or reducing some of the costs. And then we also took a look from a regulatory perspective at what we could do to reduce the amount of time that it takes for a project to get permitted, and what would it take to reduce code requirements that might add costs to a project that continue to hold up delivery. Next slide, Tom.
Yeah.
I think I hand this back to you.
Yes, thanks, Lisa. This slide, and this is the last of our background information slides, is just a recent permitting trends. And this sort of fits with some of the challenges that Lisa was talking about, that, you know, pre-pandemic, we were seeing production in terms of the number of units that were permitted. Permits were issued or under inspection or finalized, you know, being well above that 5,000 annual rate that we would need to meet our future demand. We saw a dip during the pandemic and that disruption. We saw projects that were in the pipeline come back in 21 and 22. And then in 23, we started to see where the interest rate increases and the supply chain disruption and the increases in construction costs started to significantly affect the local market. And we permitted about 3,500 units in 2023. So far through June of this year, we're only at 1,000 units. So we've seen where the market has really tightened, and you know, even as we are making our changes to the inclusionary zoning program and other code reductions, we still are facing the headwinds of the national economy to boost our production. Next slide, please. So as we get into the production strategy, I'm going to turn things over back to Ariel to just give you a high-level overview of the engagement process and the community input that we've gotten into that it has informed this strategy.
Okay, thank you. So while BPS facilitated the development of the action plan to meet state land use requirements, it was a collaborative effort across the city and across local government. So BPS hosted an internal working group over the last year and a half, as well as hosting a multi-governmental technical advisory committee. And we also held strategic one-on-ones with additional city staff and provided additional opportunity for comment. Externally, we executed a fairly broad strategy utilizing a number of different tools and activities to reach a wide and diverse group of Portlanders for input. We had received a grant from the state specifically to conduct BIPOC outreach, so we hosted focus groups and a community meeting. We also met with community groups, developers, and had opportunities for wider comment through the citywide survey, as well as the Open Map app throughout the various drafts. As mentioned, here are some of the organizations and coalitions whose meetings we attended over the last several months. You can see that they range from city advisory groups such as the Development Review Advisory Committee to neighborhood area advocacy groups such as Living Coley, and housing, community, and developer advocacy groups such as the Fair Housing Council of Oregon, League of Women Voters, Oregon Smart Growth, and so on. Across all of these meetings, we heard a wide range and a variety of comments on the draft strategies, as well as the key issues that were facing Portlanders. When we were attending, we were particularly interested in hearing what we might have missed in our initial drafts or what Portlanders' greatest needs were. Among the many things we heard, I think you'll not be surprised, affordability is the most important issue raised to address alongside production. Other issues such as livability, safety, simplifying processes, and many more were also prominent in our discussions. And with that, I'll pass back to Tom.
Okay, now we'll get into the strategies themselves. You know, first, this is a slide that we've shown before, and it really gets to, you know, what are the policy levers that the city has in its toolbox to be able to influence housing production. And we have funding, we have incentives, and we have regulations. And I think in the past, most of our funding that's been available, we have focused at the lower income, affordable, regulated affordable housing. That's the housing bond, that's TIF revenue, CET revenue, funding sources like that. In addition to that, we've offered other financial incentives and zoning bonuses for different types of housing that get into some of those middle income, what we call the middle income housing ranges, up to that 120% area median income level. And then finally, across the board are the regulations that affect all types of housing development. And again, as Commissioner Rubio pointed out in her opening remarks, this is where we're constantly tinkering with the zoning code to, again, increase incentives, reduce development requirements, addressing infrastructure requirements that affect all types of housing. So what is a strategy? We've tried to identify 35 different actions. They are pretty high level and broad based. We leave working out all of the details to the project themselves. But in terms of what we want to do is provide a guidepost and then also sort of meet some of the state requirements in terms of identifying who's going to be served by this strategy, what kind of priority do we have, when do we expect the project to start, when do we expect it to be implemented, to be able to, and that's going to be one of the things that the state is going to be looking and sort of checking on us, is are we taking the actions that we say we are going to in this strategy? Some of the key themes that you will see running through all of this and have been touched on in the opening remarks is around, we want to produce more housing of all types of housing. We also see a real need for additional funding for affordable housing. And as shown in some of the data around the future need, is that is where we're going to have our greatest challenge. We also want to increase capacity in our high opportunity neighborhoods, the central city and the close-in neighborhoods that have a lot of amenities, access to transit, walkable communities. We really want to look at what kind of housing options are available in those communities and how can we really adjust the zoning code to increase those options. Again, a theme that I've touched on before is continuous improvement. Again, continuing to reform our codes, our permitting processes to make it easier to develop and make sure that we're focused on the greatest housing needs. And then finally, another theme is around catalytic developments. We have a lot of signature projects in and around the central city, projects like Broadway Corridor or the OMSI District Master Plan that really represent thousands of units of production, and also signature developments for Portland that can really put us on the map as moving forward and addressing housing in a meaningful way. So the production strategy is organized around 8 different initiatives, bundles of strategies that address a wide range of different housing issues. And I'll go through each of these and touch on some of the highlights for those. The first one is around promoting affordable housing, and it really is focused on funding. We are almost fully obligated in our city and metro regional housing bond allocations, and we need to look to replace that revenue source so that we can sustain that affordable housing production. Part of that picture is the new tax increment finance districts that Prosper is putting together and that you will see later this fall. We also want to leverage other state and federal funding sources in terms of working with the state to leverage their low-income housing tax credits and other lottery bond revenue to work in partnership with the city funding sources to support the affordable housing production. The other one I'll just touch on is, earlier this year, you adopted the inclusionary housing calibration study. I think, and as part of that, we expanded the tax abatement incentive that goes along with that obligation. And with that came a commitment both to the county and to the development community to continue to do periodic reviews, to check those requirements and the cost of meeting those requirements against our incentive package. And so doing that check is part of this package. Next bundle. The next initiative is around that middle income housing and home ownership opportunity. I think this is a sort of a new area that the city is getting into, that 80 to 120% income bracket. You've already seen things this year like Prosper Portland's new middle income financial incentives that are starting to be deployed. Earlier this month, you passed the update to the land division code, which will make it easier for developers, more streamlined for developers to subdivide lots, which can create more home ownership opportunities. And even now, the Housing Bureau has started to explore options for expanding their home ownership programs. Next slide. The third bundle around increasing access to opportunity is really focused on the sort of land use and zoning changes that we can do, in addition to the catalytic projects that I just talked about. And I think what you see in the testimony and what you will hear today is that strategy number 2 around increasing housing capacity in our close-in neighborhoods to really take advantage of those locations and amenities that are already there. And then, you've already seen and will be seeing later this fall, we have a grant in hand from the state of Oregon to look at revising our zoning bonuses outside the central city and recalibrating those bonuses and incentives as part of the zoning code package, and we're already getting that work underway. And then finally, we hear a lot about how producing housing in the central city. We have a couple of those projects focused on the central city. And again, we've already launched number 5 in terms of looking at housing capacity, looking at how we can adjust floor area ratios and building heights in the central city to help support more housing production there. The next bundle is focused on improving the permitting process and looking at the city requirements for development. And that is both, getting the Portland Permitting and Development Bureau up and running and continuing to implement some of the recommendations coming out of the regulatory reform project. It also looks at, and one of the themes that we heard in our outreach is around infrastructure and system development charges, that burden that falls on developers, and what can we do on the public side to relieve that burden and look at sustainable funding for some of the infrastructure. We were successful in the last legislative session in getting state infrastructure investment in the Broadway corridor and OMSI district areas. And so, in the next legislative session also, that will be part of our agenda as well, to get more sustainable infrastructure funding from the state. This one is a little tangential to producing housing, but we thought that a housing strategy would not be complete without addressing our our existing residents and some of the displacement pressures that they're facing. And again, as you know, we look at 53% of our future housing needing to be affordable. We, in the production strategy itself, there's a catalog of all of our existing actions that we're doing to support our existing residents that are facing challenges. We do have some new ones. In particular, one of the things that we heard in our outreach is around this idea of an affordable housing listing service so that we can better match the people out there that are looking for more affordable housing units with the units that are available. And this is particularly important for the inclusionary housing units that can sometimes be hard to find because there are 1s, 2s, and 3 units out there. So that is another project that the Housing Bureau is getting ready to launch in the near term to begin to look at how we would do that. I think there's a couple more here, just different. Go ahead and go to the next one. I think in the housing needs analysis, we showed a real need with an aging population to really look at what we have in terms of and can do in terms of supporting production strategies for age-friendly and disability-friendly housing. 20% of Portland households have a person with a disability. And so there's a lot of need out there. And so this is sort of a two-pronged strategy. One is looking at what can we do to produce more housing, but that new production is going to, over 20 years, is going to represent about a third of the housing units that'll be in Portland in 2045. The other strategy here is looking at opportunities, education, technical assistance to help existing owners, homeowners, landlords to retrofit their units, to make them more accessible, to include things like ramps and retrofitting bathrooms and to be able to make those existing units more accessible, more visitable. So a bit of a two-pronged strategy there. We have a bundle of strategies around innovation. How can we make our housing more climate friendly, more healthy? This is where the category of the commercial to residential conversions come in, and the adaptive reuse of some of our historic buildings, especially our historic office buildings. And we've taken some actions as a city already, and we're starting to see sort of early signs of success. There are already 3 projects in the pipeline to take advantage of some of these changes that we've already done, including one just this week that Prosper Portland is making a $4 million construction loan to support the conversion of a building in Old Town to 59 units of middle-income housing. We've also have noticed that we're receiving a federal grant that is focused on carbon reduction. This is part of a state coalition, but that grant also will provide funding that we can use to support the commercial to residential conversions. And then finally, we acknowledge that we can't do this alone. We need help from our state and federal partners. We've begun to outline future state and federal legislative agenda items to advocate for more funding, changes to state regulations and codes and statutes that we see as barriers to housing production, and then also to advocate around that sort of resilient, climate-friendly homes to make sure our future housing production, as well as retrofitting our current housing stock, is as resilient as it could be. Just a little bit on implementation. I think, next slide, please. As Commissioner Rubio mentioned in her opening remarks, we have a lot underway. we're able as a 6-year strategy, we have a good idea about what we want to do, what we can do in the next couple of years. And so we've been able to identify those strategies. You're gonna see some of those later this fall, such as the adopting new TIF districts that will provide a funding stream to support housing production. You will begin to see these conversations coming in next year as we bring some of these projects forward. Next slide, please. I think in the medium to long term, these strategies are on our list. And so as we begin to look at future budgets and future work programs, we will begin to incorporate these into our work programs across the city. And I think one of the things, and maybe Donnie can touch on this as well, is continuing our interbureau team to be able to track this across bureaus, to be aware of what everybody's doing so that we can leverage those opportunities. Next slide, please. And then finally, we're here with the council hearing on this resolution today. After the resolution is adopted, we will submit it to the state, the Department of Land Conservation and Development for their review. But at the same time, we are, and as we just showed, beginning implementation of these strategies, right? We don't need state approval before we start this work. These are all good ideas that we're going to be implementing and beginning to build into our work program. We will receive the comments back from the state in early 2025, and we can make adjustments there. And I think this was touched on earlier, but I just want to emphasize, this is a living document. We have a 3-year progress report that's required by the state. We can make pivots, we can add items, we can make adjustments as we see emerging needs. And so, again, we're going to continue to work on these issues. You've heard a number of different emerging issues already that are coming to the fore that we're able to work on and really be a flexible document as we move forward. But it does set up a conversation between us and the state, and that accountability to ensure that we are producing the housing units that are sort of our fair share of the region to address the larger housing issues. That concludes our presentation. Again, what's before you today is adopting a resolution to adopt the housing production strategy. And I think we can move on to public testimony unless
All
there's
right,
any
very
questions.
good. Are there any burning questions people would like to get to now, or should we get right to public testimony? Good. How many folks do we have signed up, Keelan?
We have 20 people signed up.
Okay, and just a reminder, please, 2 minutes each. Name for the record. We don't need to know your address. And Keelan will call you up or call you online, depending upon whether you're here in person or whether you're virtual.
Thank you, Mayor. First up, we have Sarah V. Paula, followed by Peggy Moretti and Jonathan Greenwood.
Welcome.
Is this on? Oh, perfect. My name is Sarav Pala. Good afternoon, City Council, members of staff, and fellow Portlanders. My name is Sarav Pala, and I'm a member of Portland Neighbors Welcome, a pro-housing, pro-tenant, volunteer-led group concerned with making Portland's housing policy more reflective of its welcoming values. I'd like to start off by thanking all the members of the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability for all their hard work in researching, analyzing, and collecting input in creating the recommended draft housing production strategy. It's encouraging as a resident to see that the city has so many talented staff members who are committed to listening to the feedback of the community and drafting a policy that lives up to a vision of Portland where housing is accessible to all. I appreciate that BPS strengthened the language in the current draft to signal a stronger commitment to expanding housing capacity in the Inner East Side through re-legalizing a broader range of housing densities in high opportunity neighborhoods, rather than simply exploring the possibility. I'd also like to ask the council go one step further to ensure these desperately needed changes are given the critical staff resources and funding to make this vision a reality. Expanding mixed-use areas will provide more Portlanders with access to complete neighborhoods, rich in educational opportunities, living wage jobs, transit accessibility, community spaces, and easy access to healthcare. This is a vital component in tackling some of the greatest challenges the city faces, namely the housing and homelessness crisis, the climate crisis, and the risk of displacement of our most vulnerable neighbors. It's with these issues in mind that I urge the council to support and accept the proposed draft. This may not be the only solution to our most daunting problems, but I'm confident with the support of the good folks at BPS, related agencies, and our elected officials that we'll be on our way to a better Portland for all residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Peggy Moretti.
Hello, I'm Peggy Moretti, speaking on behalf of the Portland Historic Landmarks Commission. The members of the commission greatly appreciate the opportunity to provide feedback on the draft report and acknowledge the huge and thoughtful effort that has brought it thus far. We hope the following 4 comments prove useful in refining the strategy. 1, we urge a greater focus on retaining existing housing, adding density without demolition, and making it easier to convert single-family homes into multiple units or ADUs without triggering code upgrades that are cost prohibitive. 2, the question must be asked, can we really build our way to sufficient affordable housing? Probably not. To be successful, we must put greater emphasis on reusing the buildings we already have, creating housing through the conversion of existing commercial or industrial structures. And this adaptive reuse addresses many of the city's priorities. It can be faster, less expensive, and is far more environmentally friendly than new construction. Reuse retains the buildings that embody our diverse cultural heritage and that define Portland's unique sense of place. And converting commercial buildings to housing is a major key to a successful revitalization of downtown. 3, a critical missing ingredient to fast-tracking conversions is a state rehabilitation tax credit. As highlighted in the Commission's State of the City report, Oregon utterly lacks financial incentives for adaptive reuse. State tax credits, which can be combined with federal and other tax credits, have proven very effective in 39 other states. In total, they typically offset 40% or more of rehab costs and make projects that require seismic retrofits feasible. This should be a top legislative priority for the city and ought to be in our report. Also important is lowering barriers to reuse that take the form of permitting and logistics.
Peggy,
That was time.
okay, thank you, Peggy.
Next up, we have Jonathan Greenwood.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hello, City Council. I am Jonathan Greenwood, a member of Portland Neighbors Welcome, speaking as a concerned citizen. Allowing the development of 4-floor buildings and corner stores in Portland's inner neighborhoods would greatly benefit our community. The proposal is simple. Make it legal for any residential lot from 12th to 60th and from Fremont to Powell to allow street-scale apartment buildings. This would create a vibrant, mixed-income neighborhood similar to the Northwest Alphabet District, walkable, dynamic, and well-served by transit. This evolution is vital for economic growth, housing affordability, social integration, and environmental sustainability. Historically, mixing apartment buildings into residential areas was common, as seen in neighborhoods like Kearns and Buckman. However, in 1981, the City Council restricted these developments, contributing to housing shortages and rising rents. Many of Portland's unregulated affordable homes are in these inner neighborhoods and are at risk of gentrification. By lifting restrictions on new apartment buildings, we can reduce rent pressures and keep housing accessible. A diverse group of stakeholders, including affordable housing advocates and environmental groups, supports this proposal. Allowing gradual development will create more housing opportunities, protect affordability, and ensure a sustainable future for Portland. Now is the time to revisit outdated policies and make positive changes for our city. And finally, I would like to comment on the commentary about all housing types being necessary. I think at this point in time, we need density. We don't need to be focusing on single family homes. That's something that I really truly believe in. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next up, we have Jennifer Shook, followed by Zachary Lusher and Michael Anderson.
My name is Jennifer Shook. I'm a Northeast Portland resident and board member of Portland Neighbors Welcome. I want to thank BPS staff for the time and effort they've put into the housing production strategy. I'm especially excited about the strategy to increase housing capacity in high opportunity neighborhoods in the Inner East Side. Increasing density in these neighborhoods, not just on major arterials or corridors, but throughout neighborhood streets, will lay the groundwork for thriving, resilient communities where people at a variety of income levels can live. It will also ensure that apartments, especially affordable apartments, will no longer be relegated to our busiest, loudest, and most dangerous streets. Increasing the amount and variety of housing units in the Inner East Side will help the city meet its climate goals, particularly around transportation, and help support local businesses. As this strategy is implemented, it should be combined with efforts to mitigate displacement, especially for tenants of the legacy rental housing in these neighborhoods. The city should provide additional support for affordable housing, including a public lands inventory and investment in community land trusts, strategies that are also identified in the HPS. I hope that the city will devote the necessary staff time to implement this strategy in a timely manner. We're still in a housing emergency, and we urgently need more housing in neighborhoods where residents have the opportunity to live car-free. Political conditions and climate change are going to continue driving folks to cities like Portland. If we fail to plan for adequate housing, we will be failing our queer and trans neighbors, as well as those displaced by wildfires and other disasters. I hope you will support the housing production strategy and that the future council will use it as a roadmap for our city's future. I look forward to continuing to work with BPS on the Inner East Side strategy, along with our coalition partners. Thank you for your time.
Zachary Lusher. Michael Anderson.
Thank you so much. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Mr. Mayor and Council, my name is Michael Anderson with Sightline Institute. We're a regional sustainability think tank. I'm here to say thank you so much to the whole team at BPS and the council for putting together what I think is a really strong first housing production strategy. Tom and I both serve on the one of the subcommittees for the state's ONA process that is going to be sort of looking over cities' shoulders as they do the next few versions of the HPSs. And I can tell you it's not going to be, I hope, the intent of this law is that it won't be one of the plans that we leave on the shelf. I've been here for 15 years now. I've seen a bunch of plans. I can only imagine how many you've each seen sit on the shelf for a long time and remains an aspirational list. This is a to-do list. And on that point, I really want to thank the city for changing the direction somewhat from the first draft to the proposed draft that's before you now, from a list of things we were either going to do already or we might do someday to a really actionable specific list. Also want to share with you a little breaking news from last night. One of the items in the strategy mentions changing or working with the state to change building codes to support stacked flats, basically on small lots, with alternative safety measures for single stairway and higher safety standards in other ways. Yesterday, the Building Codes Division subcommittee working on this said that it was not appropriate to make this change to the state level. It wouldn't work in Malheur County, therefore it shouldn't work at the state level. And they suggested that cities sponsor specific code amendment requests on their own. And so we've already been speaking with folks in the fire marshal's office and the Building Codes Division about, or the BDS about what the possibilities there are, but we'd love to keep talking about that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Timothy Slevin Bodgdal, followed by Luke Norman and Donna Cohen.
Hi, my name is Tim Slevin Vegdal. I'm one of the leaders of the local Strong Towns PDX organization. I'm here to thank everyone involved for including staffing to consider upzoning the Inner East Side in this proposal. This project is important to our organization because we believe the allowance of incremental and mixed-use development will bring a higher degree of fiscal resiliency and a higher quality of life for more people to these neighborhoods. Myself and Strongtowns PDX would like to thank you for this commitment to staff and this positive proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Luke Norman.
Thank you. Chair and Commissioners, my name is Luke Norman, and I encourage you to support the housing production strategy. The recommended draft that you have before you is a great example of staff actively listening and responding to community feedback. 3 of the common sense changes they made include ensuring that the city has a timeline to legalize more types of homes in our highest opportunity neighborhoods, in Section C2, increasing housing capacity in inner cities and corridors. Second, prioritizing coordination across bureaus and agencies that is needed to secure new land for homes. In Section A4, establish a comprehensive citywide land banking strategy. And finally, affirming the city's commitment to helping more residents own their own home, which is a key driver of generational wealth. In Section B3, expand home ownership programs. As others has mentioned, making these 3 changes turn the HPS into an actionable document. And so I'm proud to add my voice to a diverse coalition, including Habitat for Humanity, Proud Ground, and Portland Neighbors Welcome, in thanking the city for making these changes. Please join us by voting to support the housing production strategy and taking a meaningful step to address our housing crisis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Donna Cohen.
Donna Cohen from St. John's. Thank you to the council and BPS for this critical plan. I want to make one suggestion and then some thumbs up. I would like to see the Fessenden corridor in St. John's become a TIF area. The surrounding neighborhood is lower income and diverse, an identified, quote, racially concentrated area of poverty and, quote, area of economic vulnerability, according to the housing production strategy, and has been historically neglected. Fessenden bisects the largest of the 95 neighborhoods in Portland. The half of the population living north of the corridor are not within walking distance of a town center, but are within a quarter mile of 4 schools. Now, after a years-long community push for transportation safety changes, the corridor has been revitalized by rerouting illegal freight trucks and adding pedestrian crossings. With a $3 million revitalization of George Park in process, it is the time to look toward an overall renewal of the corridor. With improvements, more housing, businesses, and amenities, we could become an opportunity zone area for the neighborhood. My thumbs up are yay to adding an accountability piece, a new housing bond. I will canvass again. Land banking, upzoning, including inner east side. First-time homeowner programs, I am a beneficiary of such, and it radically changed my life for the better. Assistance for aging in place, preserving affordable housing, and housing for seniors in need, as the fastest growing segment of the homeless population are those over 50. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Doug Klotz, followed by Ben Hufford and Sarah Radcliffe.
Hi, my name is Doug Klotz. I live at 35th between Hawthorne and Division. We are within walking distance of 3 grocery stores, a pharmacy, dozens of shops and restaurants, and the area is served by 3 frequent bus lines. This is an ideal location to increase zoning allowances to let more people at different income levels live here. I support the Portland Neighbors Welcome in Inner East Side for All plan. And to do this, I point out the second bullet under item C, initiate an area plan project to allow mid-rise apartment buildings throughout the area and to also adopt the infrastructure study. And this is key. I'm glad to see that we this is a key program within the HPS. I wanted to point out just to Ms. Moretti, increased density is really necessary if we're going to accomplish this. While we've had some successes with ADUs and RIP, to really get the density necessary, there does need to be new buildings. I am pleased to see that the Neighborhood Coalition for Southeast, Southeast Uplift, is also in support of this plan. And this plan will fight displacement, which leads to homelessness, by reducing competition for existing apartments across the city, as well as benefiting the individual neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben Hufford.
Hi, my name is Ben Hufford. I'm a Portland architect. I'm testifying in support of the housing strategy, and I want to underscore the urgency. 6,000 new housing units are needed each year to make Portland healthy. The current deficit on page 9 of the report, the catch-up number, if you will, is 6,400 units. In 2023, Portland built less than 1,500 units, the smallest number since 2012. This year in 24, some people project that we are going to build fewer than 500 units, the lowest number on record. So by the end of this year, the catch-up number we just talked about could be over 15,000 units. Our housing market is about to get a lot worse. Portland will see less affordability for all, and we will see an increase in homelessness. Our attention on homelessness has been focused on bailing the water out of the boat, trying to help our current homeless population. But we have a hole in the boat, and it's housing production. If you want to keep kids from buying cigarettes, and most of you have heard this from me before, what do? You make really strict rules, you enforce those rules through a third party, and you tax the cigarettes a lot. And that's what Portland historically has done on housing. Our rules are very difficult. Commercial permits have 28 different bureau reviews, plus design review for multifamily. For comparison, Hillsborough has 4. We have a 6-month minimum design review process and a multifamily permit average of 501 days. No one knows what the interest rates are going to be 3 years from now. Portland taxes market rate housing at $35,000 per unit, including permit fees and system development charges. A hypothetical 50-unit, $10 million project today triggers fees of $1.8 million. That project won't get built. So, at the current rate, in 2028, our catch-up number could be as high as 30,000 units. We need everything that this report suggests, and more, and sooner.
Thank you. Perfectly timed, by the way.
Landed it.
You did.
Sarah Radcliffe.
Hi, Sarah.
Good afternoon, Mayor Wheeler, City Commissioners. My name is Sarah Radcliffe, and I'm here on behalf of Habitat for Humanity Portland Region and our partner Proud Ground, the region's largest community land trust. Together, we want to thank the project team, City Council, the Housing Bureau, and the Planning Commission for your receptiveness to community input on the housing production strategy. Specifically, homeownership is now included as an affordable housing strategy for households below 80% area median income. With the right public subsidies, homeownership is possible for lower income households, and the difference it can make for families who would otherwise face housing instability is transformational. We were also excited to see a citywide land bank strategy elevated from an idea for exploration to a specific high priority goal. Land is one of the city's most critical assets, and the city's proactive steps to repurpose underutilized land for housing can lead the way for other public and private partners to do the same. The strategy allowing for rezoning of faith-based and nonprofit lands may be a powerful complement to the land bank. And finally, we love the plan to expand homeownership programs through land incentives, increased funding for down payment assistance, homebuyer education, and match savings programs. And what's more, supporting alternative homeownership models was elevated from an idea for exploration to a high priority program to implement. So all told, we look forward to partnering with the city to implement this vision. Thank you.
Next, we have Brett Winkler, followed by Jackie Haddon and Heidi Hart.
Welcome back.
Thank you, everyone. Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. For those who recognize me, I'm here not as a city employee, but as a concerned citizen with a fair bit of experience in my time that might be relevant. I also want to applaud everybody's efforts in this document. It's great to see such effort putting forth in this. And I want to just draw a quick parallel to some training that I've had from 2019. It was Public Utilities, Embedding Equity in Public Utilities from the City of Seattle. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, it was basically a study of systemic racism and inequity in how city streetlights are repaired. City records showed that it was 100% equitable. Surveys showed that it was not. And so it really took somebody doing a Boolean search, which is a fun word to say, Boolean search of city GIS to tease out where those inequities lie. And so I would just encourage you all to utilize city resources to fully understand the housing supply. It's really easy to say we need more housing supply as a noun, but housing is a verb. We want to make sure we have all the right people being supplied with housing. So use your city GIS, and my hypothesis is that you'll find a portion of housing supply consumed by LLCs, Wall Street, short-term rentals, and multiple property professional landlords. Now, I'm not saying that there's not a place for these people, but it's like fat in a diet. It's the percentage that matters in order to have a healthy community. So I would ask that in this document or somewhere that you all consider adding this inventory to your efforts to support, a 241-page document. I'd also like to draw your attention to page 55, monitoring success, figure 10. And this is where I'm going to be a skunk at the garden party. I would encourage you all to look at that monitoring success in this large document to see if you can understand how we are measuring success. One of the items I noticed was it identified dollars per square foot of rentals. I don't know if that means dollar per square foot as low to make it affordable, or using dollars per square foot as a measure of how much inventory is being produced. So before you vote on it, I would encourage you all to look at it. Somebody please make a motion and address it in whatever way you feel necessary to be productive.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jackie Hadden.
Mayor Wheeler, Commissioners, my name is Jackie Hadden. I'm testifying in support of the Housing Production Strategy. I'm a certified aging in place specialist, a seniors real estate specialist, board member of the National Association of the Remodeling Industry, and co-founder of Livable Homes. Livable Homes is the Portland area expansion of the lifelong housing program created by the Rogue Valley Council of Governments that provides education and accessible home certification in Southern Oregon. We know that the lack of accessible and affordable options for housing in our state has created hardship for many of our most vulnerable residents who are aging and/or living with a disability. We're excited about the Housing Production Strategy draft, and we believe that meeting many of the listed aging and disability goals can be accomplished in these ways. 1, add back in the removed wording from section F1 of the original February 2024 draft on page 19 that says convene officials to discuss legislation that increases jurisdictions' ability to regulate and incentivize accessible housing. 2, advocate for increased accessibility by working with the state to define accessible units as those constructed according to the Uniform Federal Accessibility Standards as required under Section 504 of the Federal Rehab Act. 3, create pre-certified, pre-permitted accessible housing plans to address permitting and development delays in affordable and middle-income housing. 4, utilize the Livable Homes Certification Program to immediately identify and track existing accessible housing industry. The lifelong housing checklist used in our Livable Home Certification Program has already been identified in the Housing Production Strategy on page 48 as an accepted method for identifying visitable and accessible units. We're confident that clear definitions of accessible units and utilization of the lifelong housing checklist to certify and track those units will allow BPS to show compliance with the stated metrics for measuring and monitoring progress of their goals. Partnering with Livable Homes means the City of Portland can immediately implement this strategy years ahead of the 2028 timeline identified on page 20. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Heidi Hart.
Hi, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Heidi Hart, and I'm a renter in the Buckman neighborhood and a board member of Portland Neighbors Welcome. I want to thank the city for the commitment and the housing production strategy to staffing a project that would consider upzones in high opportunity neighborhoods. Portland's housing crisis demands bold action, and this project will be a key part of resolving our crisis long term. Thank you for your time.
That was to the point. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Next up, we have Alan Hines.
Welcome. Is he on? There he is. Hi, Alan.
Hi, Nico is going to be reading my testimony. Good?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Hello, Mayor Wheeler and council members. My name is Alan Hines, and I am the Housing Access Director at Community Vision. I also serve as a commissioner on the Rental Services Commission. My focus for the past several years has been housing accessibility and addressing the impacts of the housing crisis for people with disabilities. The issues we're facing are pervasive and overlapping. Employment discrimination and limited opportunities often mean people with disabilities have extremely low incomes. Additionally, there's no accounting for accessible dwelling units, so we often have no way of finding any of those units. Also, widespread noncompliance with regulations to build accessible units in multifamily housing has resulted in a severe shortage. To meet the needs of the disability community, the city needs housing at the lowest level of affordability that also meets Universal Federal Accessibility Standards, or UFAS. To account for past noncompliance in the aging population, state and local governments should increase the required percentage of UFAS compliant dwellings. In addition, state and local agencies should work with housing providers to assess all existing multifamily units and determine which units have accessibility features and provide this information to the public. In addition, Community Vision encourages you to consider 2 additional ways the housing production strategy could better support people with disabilities. First, in addition to increasing housing capacity in centers and corridors, the city should require a higher percentage of new developments with 20 or more units because buildings of that size are required to incorporate accessible units. Second, to accelerate production and housing in accessible housing, the state will need to increase the required percentage of accessible units and lower the number of units that trigger compliance. The state will also need to, quote, right-size incentives to build accessible units and condition public funding on meeting higher accessibility standards. The city's support with this could help speed up this long overdue change and increase housing choice for people with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Machu Williams, followed by Alan De La Torre and Dave Peticolas.
Hey, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to comment today. My name is Machu Williams. I am the Planning Liaison Manager at Southeast Uplift Neighborhood Coalition. We are a nonprofit that collaborates with the community to build informed, inclusive, and participatory neighborhoods that support our social and ecological well-being for over 167,000 people in Portland's District 3. I'm here today to voice Southeast Uplift's support for the rezoning study of the inner neighborhoods, which would increase housing capacity and options in high opportunity neighborhoods contained within the housing production strategy. These close-in neighborhoods have excellent transit, access to amenities, and are conducive to walkable, vibrant neighborhoods. This is despite lacking a town center designation anywhere within District 3, which may emerge from said strategy. First, I would like to extend our gratitude to the staff at the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability for their collaborative efforts with the community in developing the strategy. The staff engaged a diverse and wide range of community groups, including multiple briefings to Southeast Uplift, to bring forth the recommendations you see here today. Multiple coalition partners and neighborhood associations already support this proposal, and our executive leadership notes the clear benefits to the entire district that increased density and study of the rezoning of inner neighborhoods will bring, including beyond the corridors and centers. This change would increase housing types and options which cannot be built today, but also increase the number of Portlanders proximate to the central city and support its revitalization efforts. Building costs are up and delays add costs. So with this in mind, we urge City Council to adopt the housing production strategy and direct the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability to prioritize undertaking the rezoning study of these inner neighborhoods. Thank you for your time and efforts to address the housing crisis at this critical time in our city's history.
Thank you.
Alan De La Torre.
Thank you. Mayor Wheeler, City Council, thank you very much for having me here. My name is Dr. Alan De La Torre. I serve as a community builder for Northwest Pilot Project. I worked at the city for about 3.5 years in the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, and I'm affiliate faculty at Portland State in the Institute on Aging. I'm an urban gerontologist. I have co-written several plans that sit on the shelves of city shelves, and it's time for action around these issues. Older adults are here. It's a rapidly aging population that we have. Our homeless population has gone from about 1 in 4 to 1 in 3 older adults. This is an issue that we need your help with. We need you to move forward in a lot of ways. I've been here in Portland for 22 years doing work, raising the issue about older adults and people with disabilities repeatedly. I will be here for quite some time continuing to push this agenda forward, but I have not seen enough action. 22 years ago, I started working on New Columbia, trying to improve the age friendliness of that development, which has led to some good things. But we've stalled out in understanding this work here at this level. I want to say thank you to BPS, to Ariel Kane, Tom Armstrong, and other leadership for pulling the issues of age and disability-friendly housing forward. I want to say there's a discussion draft sitting in BPS's e-files right now called Age and Disability Inclusive Neighborhoods. It's been there since October of last year, but is yet to be discussed by anybody except for Dave Miller on OPB's Think Out Loud. That's a disservice to our community. I will say this, there are elements within this plan that are actionable and need to be taken seriously. The 0 to 30% income issue is hugely important to older adults and people with disabilities that are not just one job and one shelter stop away from self-security and independence. We need to think beyond about accessible housing and lead the way so we can show the state that Portland is stepping forward and we're doing the work that we need to. I broadly support the work that Jackie is doing, that Alan Hines is leading, but we have an opportunity to do more, and there are many of us willing to step forward and help the city get there. So please, with your assistance, help us help the folks that are living in Portland that are aging and that have disabilities find the housing that they need. I'm here, I'm ready to help. I have been for a while, and I sincerely leaning in and listening.
Thanks, Alan.
Dave Petacolis.
Hello, City Council members and Mayor. My name is Dave Petacola, and I live in the awesome Portsmouth neighborhood of North Portland. And I am also a member of Portland Neighbors Welcome. I am here to urge you to adopt the housing production strategy as drafted. And I am also here to recognize the hard work that city staff put into that document, and in particular, the improvements that they made in response to public feedback. Thank you for committing to staffing a project to upzone high opportunity inner pattern neighborhoods. We need those kinds of commitments to action on housing abundance and opportunity, and the HPS draft reflects positive improvements along those lines. And after adopting it, let's challenge ourselves to beat the timelines with quick and decisive action to address our critical housing shortage. Housing abundance cannot wait 4 years. The economic health and vibrancy of our city depend on acting swiftly. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, you too. Thank you.
Next up, we have Miranda Crone, followed by Peter Fry.
Hi there. Thank you for taking a moment to hear my testimony today. My name is Miranda Crone, and I am your neighbor. I don't see where this draft addresses the abject failure of Portland Housing Bureau's compliance and enforcement of existing regulatory agreements, which is necessary to maintain and preserve existing affordable housing or to increase capacity with the addition of new housing programs. The lack of compliance and enforcement has been cited in multiple audits over the years and apparently remains unaddressed. For example, tenants in my building have been attempting to address violations of the regulatory agreement governing the project we live in for years, where we have overpaid rents by hundreds of dollars each month. We were given false information by Portland Housing Bureau, then told that PHB didn't have capacity to enforce its regulatory agreements, then told that they were hesitant to enforce existing agreements out of a concern that it may damage future partnerships with developers, continuing to expand ostensibly affordable housing programs while failing to enforce agreements once they're inked will inevitably fail to benefit the city or its residents. All of this assumes that 80% AMI or below units are in fact affordable. HUD's AMI figures and your own income data for this proposal are based on ASC numbers that were produced in 2021, forecasting based on available data. The flaw in this system is that it does not reflect unusual shifts in inflation as we are currently experiencing. The Urban Institute published a report in September of 2023 analyzing this very issue, which I strongly urge you to explore for a more thorough analysis and recommendations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Peter Fry.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, it's Peter Finley Fry. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. It's not a simple problem, and it's not a problem that zoning or things like that will fix. It's an affordability problem, not a supply problem. We all see the change in our city in the last 10 years on Vancouver Williams, East Burnside, Northwest Thurman. We've seen a lot of housing production and new neighborhoods being formed. However, we're not really dealing with the issue of affordability. I want to compliment Tom Armstrong and the Planning Bureau for looking at the whole picture and presenting to you a assessment that is very comprehensive, and I appreciate the work they put into it. I'm here because I want to advocate for ownership, not rental properties. I believe, and in fact, in the presidential election, this issue has come up with the Democratic nominee advocating for grant programs nationwide for home ownership. That was occurred last week. So I strongly want to advocate for methods of home ownership, whether that's a tiny house or whether that's a condominium or whether that's at a building. There's a lot of different ways that could happen through grants, down payment grants, through loan securing mechanisms. And I appreciate the Planning Bureau identifying these things and bringing them forward to you. So I really do appreciate the work that they've done. It's very, very well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate it.
That completes testimony, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for your testimony. Lots of great, well-informed opinions. Colleagues, I'll open it up for any discussion or questions anybody has of staff. Commissioner Ryan? Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. Anything you want to reflect on based on testimony?
You know, I think we heard a lot of good issues here, and we were taking notes and a lot of good detail. And I think that's sort of one of the challenges we face with these strategies, and they tend to be higher level. And some of these details are, when we actually get to the project, we'll, you know, dig into and consider like a lot of the accessibility issues that were brought up. And as I mentioned before, one of our strategies around the recalibrating our zoning bonuses and incentives, one of those bonuses is around how do we incentivize more accessible housing. One of the state advocacy issues is how do we get more power from the Building Codes Division to require more accessible housing. So in some ways there are state barriers, and in some ways there's more that we can do, and it's part of the future action list.
All right, and before I turn this over to Commissioner Gonzalez, I also would be remiss if I didn't mention that several people called you out for having listened to community input on the draft. We don't hear that all the time, so I just want to say thank you. It's appreciated. Commissioner Gonzalez.
I just want to dig into the ideal mix of housing that we've articulated. I'm looking at a couple of slides that you put together. The one that's up to 120,000, 560 new units needed by 2045. I don't know if we can bring that slide up. And then the other one is meeting Portland's affordable housing needs. That sort of breaks down by just the different categories of housing, how many units we're targeting. It sounds like we're on pace for under 1,000 units this year. Is that fair to project?
I think our calculations are that we've permitted 1,000 already this year. And, you know, we continue to monitor that development pipeline, but we have not looked at what, you know, so with the permitting, you have people that have submitted an application that are under review. You have stuff that's been approved for issuance. That's what we count. It's like they've made it through the permitting review process. They've paid their fees, they've paid their system development charges. They're ready to start construction. And so that's when we count it as a unit permitted. And so far, through the end of June, we've permitted 1,000 units this year. That's way below what we've done in the past. It's hard to say, you know, with a changing environment and what the Federal Reserve might do next month and interest rates and the national election, how that sort of flows through in terms of how the development community reacts in Portland.
Got it. And just to be clear, there was also something that was reported like in the 500 range. I just want to make sure I knew what that was referring to. So there was you're saying we've got about 1,000 permitted so far in 2024. I just thought I heard a number that was smaller than that, but it's
I believe in the media there was a number reported that's different from that.
Okay.
But the details in that article were such that we don't know what they're counting or where they're getting that data source. I'm explaining what we count, and in that chart and what we've consistently counted back to 1996 is when the permitting bureau issues a permit. A developer has paid their fees. It's real money. It becomes a real project. That's when we count it as a unit that is under production.
Got it. And so honing in on the delta, if we're, you know, trying to get to roughly 5,000 units per year, and you've done a helpful job here of laying out where we think those units need to come from. Where are the biggest deltas so far in 23 and 24?
I think if you see that chart, I think where we've been successful is in maintaining production is that middle housing element, that yellow band that you see there, because those are smaller projects. They use local equity, local money, investors, local banks funding the construction loans. That's a little bit easier. I think what we've seen in the drop-off is the drop-off in outside funding sources, the retirement funds, the investment funds that fund the really big projects. And so where you see that blue band, that's the multi-dwelling, the bigger apartment projects, the central city projects. I think that's where we've seen the funding, the financing really dry up and is a barrier for those projects moving forward.
Really, the institutional money is essentially dried up.
Yes.
So, but even that was actually a slightly different graph that I was referring to, but that's still instructive. And even within the multi-dwelling permitting activity, I guess still trying to get at the same question. Where are we seeing the most dramatic, most significant deltas in terms of income level that could afford those units, right? So in your other slides, you break down very helpfully, you know, the extremely low income, very low income, and all the way up to high income. And you have outlined targets by those different segments to get to roughly the $5,000. So even within multifamily, but frankly, the question's broader than that, where are the biggest gaps right now that we're seeing?
I think we have we have more of a challenge in sort of tracking those income levels and who the new projects are aiming, what their market is for. Is it high income? Is it middle? Is it affordable? We do a better job of tracking affordable production because we have public money into it, and we have other ways of tracking that. And I think that was the other point, is that, you know, we've seen a lot of robust affordable housing production because we've put money into it. You know, we have the city bond and the metro bond that's been able to support that production. I think where we've really seen the drop off is especially in the central city and sort of the private market, even the middle to the upper income development that again, that the financing of those projects has really dried up and we've seen a drop in that production.
Well, and that tracks, and certainly what I'm hearing from the development community. I mean, there are a couple dimensions. Portland's investment reputation is not great right now. I mean, you can look at multifamilies, orgs rating of different markets for investment. You know, our standing has dropped dramatically on a lot of those benchmarks. But you know, so there's Portland's relative reputation for investment. There's the macro interest rates and inflation and presidential election, as you allude to, that affects every locality that we really can't control and we just have to adjust for. But within the city of Portland, one piece of feedback we're consistently hearing is that both the multitude of resources for affordable housing, whether we're talking what we're doing, what other levels of government are doing, has provided more stability in the production there. It's still not where we want it to be, but that's been much more stable. Where we're with institutional money drying up for the city of Portland, it's really the market rate that has. Again, that's the perception. I was hoping we'd have some data on that, but that's really you don't have those stabilizing factors, and that's really been where the pain point has been in permit reduction. But I was just curious what actual data we could point to confirm whether or not that's true.
Yeah, we can look at trying to tease that out a little bit more. I think there's a couple of things, you know, we did look at that, some of those issues around related to the inclusionary housing recalibration, and that was a big driving force in adjusting the areas of the city outside the central city that are now eligible for full tax abatement on the building, a much greater financial incentive. That was effective March 1st. We still haven't seen a lot of projects come in that take advantage of that. I think the other thing as part of that recalibration study that we saw, you know, compared to other cities like a Seattle, where not only is it, you know, maybe the construction costs are similar, you know, a piece of wood costs the same in Seattle as Portland, but the income levels are different. And the rent levels are different. And that was one of the points in one of those slides, is that our income levels, our ability to pay is at a lower level and doesn't cover the cost of construction in a way that they can in Seattle. And I think that's why when we look at other areas like the Seattle region, we're seeing more production up there. It's because they have, you know, more income and ability to pay. I haven't seen how the sort of different levels of affordability bands in the production for Seattle, but that's one of the things that the economists point to in sort of being able to, you know, kickstart our production. Some of it could be around good paying jobs in Portland in the region, and being able to pay more for housing that brings down that feasibility gap.
Got it. Well, and I guess the last question here, you know, we look at permits being pulled since the adoption of inclusionary zoning in the city of Portland. And we, you know, there's and when we dug into this in the spring, it's been a pretty dramatic reduction over a number of years since we adopted inclusionary housing, with some variability, obviously. But, and I appreciate the analysis that was done in the spring. I would still submit that I'm concerned that we didn't ask the bigger questions. We asked kind of incremental, the relative impacts in different parts of the city, but we never really tackled whether inclusionary housing is working or not working, at least not from my vantage point in the big picture. And the hypothesis I'm kind of getting at here is that if we're continuing to produce some affordable housing, but obviously not where we want it to be, but we're still producing some, but are dramatically underperforming on the generation of market housing. That's a big problem in itself. That has that carries all the way down, really everyone's income levels. And again, I'd like us at some point to be able to tackle that more deeply. I guess I'll leave it at that. I'm good.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Gonzalez. Commissioner Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. Could you bring up the slide that shows who you talked to, the outreach slide engagement? There it is. All right, I glanced at this pretty quickly. And what I thought, it was out of balance a little bit. I wasn't seeing, identify those who actually do a lot of building, those who produce the larger units, multifamily units. And I didn't see enough of that.
Yeah, I think we covered that in a couple of ways. You know, we did meet on a couple of occasions with Oregon Smart Growth. That tend to be the larger developers. We also did one-on-one interviews with individual developers, you know, to sort of get their candid opinions and ideas around that as well. So I think we tried to touch that in a number of different ways.
Yeah, I know when I had the Bureau, we were really looking at having more balance in our committees. And I felt like there was a lack of those who are actually doing the building. And I think you all know I'm a big advocate for having tension in the room because that's called reality. And so having the advocates there, which should be listened to, of course, their voice should be listened to, all of them, and also those who are trying to figure out how to do the building. So I just wanted to caution that sometimes I don't think we get that balanced perspective.
I will add, I mean, an important part of this, and this reflects on sort of the history of us working on these issues and sort of engagement fatigue. And so, you know, why we were doing this, we were building on the housing needs analysis, we were building on the inclusionary housing recalibration study, the housing regulatory relief project. So we were paying attention to everything that's being said in those forums and trying to bring those issues forward.
And you did a great job of getting voices from those who need the housing. So I think that's exactly why we have, in my opinion, more perspective on disability, definitely more on aging in place for elders. So, you know, I should have started with that. Like, thank you. It's been a long day. Let's see. What about the one that shows the AMI, 0 to 30, up to 60? Was there a slide on that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, give me a sec.
And I think I want someone to tell me if I'm just bonkers on this one. But when I had the Bureau for a brief time, it seemed like workforce housing was still under the radar and that 45% was more of a sweet spot. And yet the rates here are state regulated, correct?
Yes.
And so I guess it's my opportunity once again to say I think we need to do more lobbying in Salem on a point between 30 and 60. I think there's too big of a gap. And I think the COVID-19, when the essential workers had to get to work and we discovered many of them could afford to live in Portland, I think a lot of us knew that, but that was a blunt way of discovering it, how important it is to have essential workers have housing within the city. But maybe, I don't know, what's your thoughts on that? You're all smart and you focus on this all day.
Well,
That slide up.
You could tell me that's not a thing.
Levels? Just go to the next one. So this is the income levels for those, and I agree with you, and I think
Yeah, see, that's why I always thought it's a big jump.
Yeah, that you know, even now, we're also hearing that, you know, going into that even 60 to 80 as being the workforce housing. I mean, when you get to these income levels, I think it gets very complicated on your assumptions. Is it a one earner household or two earner households? How do you combine all of that? I think what we want to pay attention to, it can be that average rent of $1,500 for a unit, and how does that fit in here? And then also, you know, I guess tracking other demographic measures like housing cost burden, the number of households or the share of households that have to pay more than 30% of their income.
Yeah.
And is that share going up or down as we get the annual data in to be able to track sort of that how big a pinch are housing costs in Portland?
Yeah, I think the disparity, the gaps between 30 and 60,000, the monthly income does say something that I think there's people falling through the cracks. It's too big of a leap to go from 0 to 30 to 60 for many people. That's what I'm trying to get at. And I hope that we continue to study that.
I would just add, Patricia Diefendorfer for the record. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
These are these divisions or striations of income level are what the federal government and state governments use. So, and this has been kind of standard for a long time. I think what you're getting at is the fact that there's maybe looking at these in finer gradations has some value. Just the regulatory framework in general accepts these as those lines of division that you look at affordability. I think that's something we can continue to work with the Housing Bureau on and think about, because it's true that these income, when you see them, the last row monthly housing costs, those numbers are calculated on the high end of that spectrum. So the 1,500 monthly housing cost is affordable to somebody who makes 60% of AMI, but not somebody who's on the lower end of that spectrum of 30%. So I understand what you're saying. And I think it's just, this has been a long accepted,
That's, I
longstanding
think,
way
the
of
problem.
looking
It's
at it.
been long accepted and times have changed, and there's a lot of workforce housing needs for people with incomes, annual incomes that are between those two marks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know who said this, but no resting on laurels. Continuous improvement is our culture. So thank you for that comment. I think that's it for now. I just really want to end with how important it is that we focus on aging in place housing. And it was really refreshing to have a few people testify on that today.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rubio.
Thank you. I just have a couple quick questions and one statement. Before I ask my questions, I just wanted to share one thing that came up that's relevant to some of the discussion around inclusionary housing. Staff mentioned that changes that we as a council adopted this spring. Since that time, we've heard from the Housing Bureau, and we don't have all the details yet, but there has been a lot of interest from projects opting into those new changes and moving forward under those new rules. So we'll need to look into how and where those show up in the permitting data, but there's definitely some good news there that's forthcoming. And then my couple of questions. One is, you mentioned some work that you'll be doing to offer more flexibility for height and FAR in the central city. Can you talk a little bit about other things like that that are in the strategy and other work happening in other bureaus to make sure that we're expanding on those housing options?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Commissioner Rubio. I can address that a little bit, and maybe staff has some additional points to make. Wanted to point out that the actions, particularly in that bundle about increasing access to opportunity, there's a couple of actions. I believe it's actions C2 and C3 and C5. All of them speak to looking at both inside and outside of the central city. We have processes underway and funding that we've obtained through grants to look at calibrating the heights and FARs, both thinking about are the heights and FARs calibrated to each other, meaning if you have a certain FAR, are the heights such that you can utilize all of that FAR, and also thinking about how those heights and FAR bonuses are working to actually incentivize affordable housing. And so, and also both just affordability in general, but more targeted units like family-sized units or units for people with disability, or even units for older adults. So we're going to be looking through programs that are sort of spoken to in those strategies or actions that I mentioned, C2, C3, and C5, to look at calibrating those heights and FARs, both inside and outside downtown. So in the central city, we're scoping a project right now that is going to look at a number of different things, but predominantly with a focus on how to remove barriers to housing further, and the height and FAR is an important part of that. And then outside of the central city, we obtained this grant from the Department of Land Conservation to do a similar exercise in outside of the central city.
And was there also something about simplifying the like middle housing as well?
Yes, that's what he
Yeah, I think we continue to monitor the middle housing production. Last year, we did sort of the 1-year report of what our experiences is. We currently have a consultant contract that's working on sort of the year 2 report. And so we continue to look at where we're seeing that middle housing production, what types of units, is it for rent or for sale, at what price point, just to see how things are playing out in the landscape, and including interviews with developers to see what they're doing, what barriers they're encountering. So that'll set up sort of that next level to reform and refine those standards around the different middle housing types.
Great, thank you. My last question, it's regarding office to housing conversions. Thanks for the update on some of the funding that's coming together to support those projects, including the one that you mentioned that the Prosper Board was considering. I think it was today that they're considering it as well, which was the first one in Old Town, I think, right?
I think there's another project in Old Town, but that is actually an office to a recovery center conversion.
Okay, got it. Well, are we seeing, what is the interest? Are we seeing a lot of interest? Is there, what's that like? And then also when they come across the virtual permitting desk, is there a specific tailoring of experience or a point of contact for those folks that need that kind of information?
You know, I'm not as familiar with that in terms of how those are handled. I do think there continues to be a lot of interest, and we see that. And I think, you know, as these projects come forward and are successful, that'll help move things forward.
Okay.
But
yeah, Tom, I can answer. Hey, Commissioner, thanks for the question. Donnie Oliveira for the record. So, Commissioner, to your question about the office to conversion, early on we saw a lot of interest. People were evaluating, you know, the opportunities for that. Given some of the seismic challenges, it wasn't really penciling out, so it sort of took a pause in interest. But given these new resources that are coming to the state and the availability of early assistance from PP&D, permitting development, we look to see more action on that front. And the Bureau is ready to catch up. So we're excited. It's a real opportunity for us.
Commissioner Ryan.
Thanks, Mayor. I've been in a lot of these meetings where you have two different voices. The Portland Neighbors Welcome group speaks very highly of wanting to build new and definitely bigger than 20 units. And they seem to have a voice that doesn't support the restoring buildings. And so it sounds like their lobby would like to tear them down and build new. And so I observed this tension as I listened to the testimony. Could someone explain it to me?
yeah, I think there, and I think it depends on what type of buildings you're looking at. And I think what the Portland Neighbors Welcome are really advocating for is we have a zoning pattern that's very focused on our corridors. And we have very sort of thin strips of higher density mixed use zoning along Hawthorne, Belmont, Division, Broadway. And then it quickly transitions to single family neighborhood zoning where we have middle housing allowances now that allow a little bit of a modest increase in density. I think what we saw in the first year report on middle housing and what we continue to see is that in these inner neighborhoods, we don't see a lot of that uptake of the middle housing, you know, the fourplexes, the 4 townhouses, because the home values in those neighborhoods are too high for it to be feasible development. As a developer, I can't afford to buy a $700,000 home and build 4 townhouses and still make money. I think, and so what Portland Neighbors Welcome is pointing out is that if we increase the zoning, so you could build a 3 or 4 story apartment building, then a developer could make that a feasible project. My interpretation of the sort of the historic adaptive reuse is also can be where it can be complementary is focused on, say, some of the things like our unreinforced masonry buildings and our empty office buildings and some of the other commercial buildings, that reusing those and increasing the density within those is where we need to also focus on. And then I think there's a sort of middle overlapping ground that we've identified where you may have a large single-family home, and it's because of the building codes, it's really hard to do more than a 2-unit conversion within that home. And that once you get above 2 units, you get kicked into a commercial building code. You have much more stringent fire code restrictions, and that makes that conversion really expensive to do. And so that, you know, people just don't take that on in terms of building that. And I will say that we have had on our city's legislative agenda to look at that, to maybe have a less stringent code for up to 4 units that can realize some of those opportunities. I will say again, as with sort of like the single staircase building issue, we haven't gotten a lot of traction at the state in terms of being able to explore that. But it is part of our agenda and our list to really see what it takes to maybe encourage more of those conversions. And so I think that's where you get a little bit of both, you know.
Yeah, I think, Tom, you saved the best for last. Your last example is where there's some exciting, innovative creativity that should take place. And I hope the two sides can figure out how to work together on that.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's another one. Let's just keep bringing up stuff that is uncomfortable to talk about. So when we did, rightly so, I'm sure, there was a lot of lobby that wanted to have some renters' rights. And what I've heard for the last 5 years is how many people have sold their homes, their fourplexes, if you will. These are more ma-pa landlords, if you will. They're housing providers, and they were often providing the most affordable housing in the city. A lot of us, at least my age and maybe within 10 years, moved to Portland and had cheaper rent because we were able to get one of those units. And increasingly, people have sold them because what we passed has made it so challenging for them to manage their lives and also to make any profit. So have we looked at the unintended consequences, perhaps, of the fact that we're providing less low-income housing when we pass something that was for renters' rights? I'm not saying anything that everyone up here has heard about this. So let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Directed.
Good afternoon, Helmi Hisrick, Director of Portland Housing Bureau. You know, I want to say that I don't think I can speak eloquently to your question. I do think it is a concern whenever we pass things that we do evaluate its effects. Towards that end, we've been asked to look at several different ordinances, including the FAIR Ordinance, for example. These are on our work program for the coming year, and we are definitely going to be taking a look at whether or not policies that are passed by the City Council after a period of time of implementation have unintended consequences. We did that with inclusionary housing. We recalibrated. I think that's a good example of sort of looking at what's happening.
So it sounds like it's at the top of your mind in terms of what's something that we could look at.
Yes, we're taking a look at what ordinances, the time frame of the ordinances that have been passed and what we need to review. I think we have a number of ordinances in the coming year that we're going to be taking a look at, including the FAIR Ordinance and including the preference policy as one of them, as well as the set-aside policy for the TIF districts. So these are all on our work program.
Sounds like good government. Thank you. Yeah, instead of piling on new policy, let's figure out the ones that we recently passed and how they're landing. Yeah, thanks.
All right, it looks like we've come to the end of our questions. This is a resolution. Keelan, call the roll.
Gonzalez.
Portland has been in a continuous state of housing emergency since 2015. I appreciate the work that has been presented today, but I am concerned that it is too incremental and lacks the robust response necessary to respond to the crisis in housing production for our city. Lack of adequate housing production affects Portlanders of all backgrounds. High cost of housing for Portlanders affects Portlanders across the income continuum. While the extent of the link is open for debate, housing scarcity contributes to homelessness. It also makes for an unaffordable housing market that undermines our ability to attract families and talented people to the city. It increases the cost of housing for all but those who got lucky enough to lock in their long-term mortgage prior to interest rates rising. The fact remains the city and the state's goals are not being reached. We need to be at roughly 5,000 units per year to reach our agreed upon housing goals. In 2023, we produced a little under 1,500 units. This year, we are also on pace to significantly underperform our goals. That means our problems are getting worse. We must also recognize that the city faces national and international competition for capital. We compete with other cities like Nashville and Salt Lake City to attract investment in housing. Simply put, post-pandemic, our city's efforts thus far have been a failure in attracting that capital. I do want to thank everyone, however, for their hard work, thoughtfulness, long hours, and efforts that went into producing this report. For the reasons stated, I don't think we have gone nearly far enough, but I will vote to accept it with sincere appreciation for your contribution today. Thank you.
Maps.
I want to thank Commissioner Rubio for bringing forward this package of housing reforms. I also have a ton of respect and appreciation for staff over at Planning and Sustainability and the Housing Bureau for helping collect these ideas. I think, as we heard throughout testimony today, folks who've interacted with staff have been incredibly impressed with our responsiveness in this space. So I'm very proud of the work that we've done here. I share my colleagues' concerns, and I think everyone on council does too, that we need to increase the amount of housing that we produce. I believe that the proposals that we have put forward today are an important first step. I also am mindful of a caution I think we heard from staff early today, which is this is a living document. So we will implement these ideas. We will see how that results in an increase in housing or not, and make adjustments accordingly. But in the meantime, I am very glad to vote in favor of supporting this resolution, and I want to thank everyone who made it possible. Aye.
Rubio.
I want to thank everyone who provided testimony today and submitted testimony online. I know sometimes it can feel like you're one of a dozen names on a list, but we really do go through and read all of the comments, and the feedback really, really matters. And thank you to those of you who have been following up on this work for so many months. You showed up to the Planning Commission, participated on online surveys, and you made time for focus groups and community meetings. And each of your voices matter and help shape the document that's before us today. We heard a lot of support for this work in the testimony, and also some enthusiasm for a few specific things that I think are really important for us to follow up on, like making sure we're doing all we can to advocate for that new state tax credit to transform some of our existing buildings into housing, updating building codes to reduce the number of staircases required for small apartment buildings, and then taking bolder, faster action to increase the accessibility of housing in Portland. And for example, an idea of encouraging more ADA units and affordable housing that PHB funds, and also making sure we have pre-approved plans for ADUs with full accessibility. And of course, expanding all housing options in some of our most centrally located and desirable neighborhoods. And thank you to the team at BPS and in all of the other bureaus for all of your incredible work, digging into the data, understanding how historic patterns of segregation are still playing out today, and also doing such extensive research and bringing this package forward. And Tom, Patricia, and Ariel, thank you so much for all your work. You've been critical and instrumental in this, and I can't say enough about that. And that slide, I think it was slide 37, there is so much going on right now and starting up so soon. And many of these are very big items. I just want to underscore, I don't know that everybody understands the magnitude of the work that goes on and how long people have been waiting for these things. And I think it's important to lift that up. From creating the new TIF districts, that's, I think, in front of the Prosper Board today, to finding a new source for local funding to replace the housing bonds, supporting, buildings in key development sites on Broadway Corridor and OMSI and Lower Albina, and scaling up our investments in middle income housing and financing and exploring long-term affordability projections. And then, of course, figuring out how to stabilize funding for our permitting teams, which is essential and undergirding to everything that we're doing here. So the list goes on and on. One of the things that has really stood out to me today as well is how interconnected a lot of this work is, like how the new Central City TIF brings in new resources to finance middle income housing and office to housing conversion. So there's a lot of interconnectedness and connectivity that we need to track and make sure that we're leveraging every opportunity to its fullest extent. And we're going to do this work together, and it will take all of us. But I know that we can do it. And as people were saying, these are doable. This is a doable checklist for us to move through. It's we can always go further and more, and we plan to. But let's get some things done so people see our momentum moving forward. So anyway, congratulations. This is a big project, and really excited and proud of the leadership I've seen you all demonstrate today. Thank you. I vote A. Oh, sorry.
Ryan.
Yes, first of all, Commissioner Rubio, congratulations. Great leadership. I really enjoyed the presentation. It was well done. Tom, Ariel, Patricia, thank you so much. And the testimony was really balanced, and I appreciate that as well. I did most of my remarks in the questions. I want to say that, land banking is something we have. I know when I had the Bureau, we did a few million. It helped keep people housed in 2 mobile home courts out in East Portland. And I also really was supportive of how we keep providing some revenue towards helping with home ownership. And especially, I've been a big advocate, like most on this council, with the North and Northeast work. I think that what I wanted to lift today was 3 things: the aging in place focus, because it's a demographic that's growing as I enter it, or am in it. Home ownership, disability concerns that were lifted, I thought, more eloquently than I've ever heard in other reports. And then I'll just keep staying on my little pet peeve about workforce housing and trying to lobby with the powers that be above us to wake up to this century and look at a mark that's between 30 and 60. So I really appreciate the balance that you're bringing to the dialogue. It's really come a long way in 4 years, and I vote aye.
Wheeler.
Great. I share my colleagues' plaudits to you, and I want to thank everybody who testified today. I learned a lot just from the testimony, and I appreciate that opportunity. So I have lots of thoughts, sort of big picture thoughts. Number one, housing is becoming one of those issues that local government is owning, and it is now probably considered a local government responsibility. But I want to remind people, only a generation ago, it was not. It was a federal government responsibility in terms of funding, financing, and incentivizing. And slowly but surely, over the course of a generation, that got cost shifted on to local government. And so this conversation is eerily similar to the one we had this morning about drug-related issues, about behavioral health-related issues, things that are actually upstream failures where local government, largely through our first responders and our public safety officers, end up being the official providers of Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid. Now, having said that, there are things we can control here at the local level. As I sort of think in my own head about what are the hierarchy of things we control that can help on the supply side of the housing equation, I think of zoning, first and foremost. That is probably the biggest lever that we can pull, and I feel like we already did. We did it with Central City 2035. We did it with Better Housing by Design. We did it with residential infill. And I remember the Housing Bureau took a lot of grief for, in the Planning Bureau for all of those efforts. But I thought that was a huge, huge, huge step in the right direction. From there, the work that my colleagues have been doing around permitting reform. We hear time and time again that speed matters, timeliness matters, and of course ROI matters, and permitting has a big role to play in that. And so I appreciate the work that's going on through the permitting function, and Commissioner Rubio and Commissioner Ryan, I know both of you have been working very, very diligently on that. I think Commissioner Maps and Gonzalez too. That's another area where we have a lever that we can control that will impact our ability to develop affordable housing and how quickly we can actually bring that affordable housing online. And then there's just flat out the regulatory environment that we create and the incentives that we provide. And I won't go into the details on that, but you all know the drill there. Those are the biggest things that we control. Then there are what I would call the environmental factors that I think are having a significant impact on the issue that Commissioner Ryan raised, which is outside capital coming into the city of Portland. And I will tell you, just anecdotally, I met with a local housing developer recently who feels like he's got the market to himself because he's not competing with outside capital at the moment because they're not interested in Portland. And it isn't just these issues related to the housing plan, it's public safety. It's concerns about homelessness and livability. It's concerns about the employment market in the city of Portland. Again, things that we, to some degree or another, can control, but they're not specifically part of this plan. But in the absence of the city doing its work around those city responsibilities, the housing plan will be adrift. The reputational issues matter, and that's got to coincide with the work we're doing here. This is a plan, but is only a part of our economic recovery and a part of the overall picture when we're talking about how we're going to provide a viable place for people to live. Then there are the things that are beyond our control. The interest rates, federal support, cost of living, particularly housing has been impacted by cost of living. These are national stories. These aren't just Portland stories. This is happening everywhere. And I would encourage us really to focus on the levers that we control narrowly. And while we should be concerned about the economic environment, I don't think we should be sidetracked by things that we cannot control. Let's focus on what we can control. And I think your report does a good job of trying to identify those specific micro issues. We don't all in this room agree on all of them, and that's fine. There's plenty of time to debate the details later, but I think you're on exactly the right track, and I'm very supportive of the work that you did. And I have no headache at all voting aye. Thank you for your hard work. The resolution is adopted, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.